Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 2:09 p.m., February 13th, 2024, and we are reconvening back from this morning's recess. Prior to the recess, we were vetting the nomination of Ms. Trinidad Rabalaman, nominated to serve on the Commonwealth Election Commission. And this afternoon, we will be vetting the renomination of Mr. Alvaro A. Santos and Dr. Rita A. Sablan. Both were confirmed last year for the Marianas Public Land Trust, and they have been renominated to serve in the same capacity. So at this time, we will go back on the agenda, if there are no objections from the members, and open up the public comments portion only before we begin the question and answer portion of this afternoon's hearing. So are there any objections from the members? There being no objections posed by the members, I will open up before I do that, I'm sorry. I would like to invite Mr. Oscar M. Babata, the Special Assistant for Administration, and the nominees, Mr. Santos and Dr. Sablan, to join us in the chamber. And Mr. Babata's role is to formally introduce the nominees, although they need no introduction to this committee. It is a formality. And Mr. Babata, you may begin as soon as you're ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Senator Selena, Roberto Babauta. Thank you once again to you, Danny, the honorable members of this EAG committee. Buenos dias, Dan Tiro. For the record, my name is Oscar M. Babauta, Special Assistant for Administration under the Office of the Governor. On behalf of the Honorable Governor Arnold I. Palacios and Lieutenant Governor David M. Aptang, I thank the Governor for this opportunity to appear before you again today, as I have did this morning. I'm pleased to not introduce but present to you, as I've already introduced both of them during the last public hearing, the Governor's nominees of renominating our Marianas Public Land Board of Trustees, Dr. Rita A. Sablan and Mr. Alvaro A. Santos. I am sure that you have, by this time, you have had the opportunity to go through the impressive resumes as we have done in the past last year. Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apatang have complete faith in both nominees to carry forth the agenda of the Commonwealth, and primarily in dealing with the fiduciary duty in serving our people in the Commonwealth within the Marianas Public Land Trust offices. Dr. Sablan and Mr. Santos are ready to answer any inquiries that you may have and present their continued future plans for the agencies in the likes of Marianas Public Land Trust. We sincerely appreciate your expeditious approval of their renominations again. Jesus Masi, Madam Chair, the Giliso, Talo, for the opportunity to present to you once again, the two nominees. Buenos dias, then Jesus Masi.
Jesus Masi, Senor Babauta. I now open the floor for public comments. If you wish to make public comments, I ask that you please state your name for the record, and pursuant to Senate rules, you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman, senators, and staff for this committee. My name is Philip Mendiola Long. I am the chairperson for the Marianas Public Land Authority, serving my third term and second term as chairman. I'm here today to offer my full-forced support of the confirmation of these two trustees to my right, Trustee Alvaro Santos and Trustee Dr. Rita Sablan. Both have been incredible to work with in the short 10 months that we've been working together. I want you all to understand that both of these individuals put their fiduciary responsibility at the highest level, and sometimes at the loudest level during our discussions. And both of these fine individuals have no problem speaking out and speaking on behalf of our Indigenous people and making sure that what we do there on a daily basis is the focus, which includes discussing lines of credit and loans with the government. I've had a very good time working with these individuals. They're both very capable, and they're very learned in wanting to increase their knowledge base, both in finance as well as fiduciary roles and responsibilities. And as I said earlier, they're not one to keep their voice down. They will stop the conversation when necessary, slow it down. I tend to go pretty quickly sometimes when speaking about finance, and Dr. Sablan always reminds me to slow down and stop and smell the roses a little bit. So I do appreciate that. In addition, they also question quite candidly our service providers, which is pretty rare in the fiduciary world. If you are a fiduciary or you're a committee member, sometimes members, especially new ones, are a little reluctant to ask questions, or they don't feel like comfortable to ask a certain questions. These two have no problem with that whatsoever. They will stop the manager, they will stop the advisor that we have, and they'll ask them to clarify it. Just yesterday, Trustee Santos asked probably one of the best questions I've ever heard as a trustee. What is a safe harbor and a safety net, the difference between the two? And we were lucky enough to have an advisor who knew exactly how to answer that. But just that discussion of understanding, as a trustee, I need to know what my safe harbor is and what I am promising to the people, the Senate, the House, and the governor and the administration in my role as a fiduciary. And that safe harbor of an investment policy statement is exactly that. So both of these individuals, I'd like to again offer my 100% support for their confirmation. I do look forward to working with both of you. I've enjoyed my time working with both of you. And I love the fact that we can agree and disagree and still be friends afterwards. So I look forward to a great, hopefully with the confirmation of these senators, an additional 6 years working with you both. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, senators. And I'm available for any further questions regarding these two fine individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Long, for making yourself available to the committee. The floor is still open for public comments.
Hafa days and Tiro, honorable members of this committee. My name is Carla Naokamatsu, and I am honored to serve as a trustee of the Marianas Public Land Trust. I am here to advocate for two exceptional nominees, Mr. Alvaro Santos and Dr. Rita Sablan, who are poised to serve as esteemed members of the Board of Trustees of the Marianas Public Land Trust. I have had the privilege of collaborating closely with both nominees. Through their steadfast dedication and remarkable talents, they have consistently demonstrated their commitment to our community and its welfare. Our interactions have been marked by insightful discourse and a shared determination to navigate complex challenges. Our board is a mosaic of diverse backgrounds and expertise, which allows us to approach issues with depth and breadth. Mr. Santos, drawing from his extensive experience in the finance industry, brings a wealth of knowledge and a sharp strategic vision to our discussions. His adeptness in navigating intricate financial matters is truly commendable. Dr. Sablan, a luminary in the field of education, enriches our deliberations with her profound insights and unwavering advocacy. Her contributions have been pivotal in shaping policies that reflect our mission and aspirations. The synergy between Mr. Santos and Dr. Sablan has been instrumental in propelling our collective efforts forward. Their exemplary leadership and unwavering commitment to our cause inspire us all. I eagerly anticipate the prospect of continuing our collaboration with Mr. Santos and Dr. Sablan. Their presence on the Marianas Public Land Trust Board promises to usher in a new era of innovation and progress. With utmost confidence and enthusiasm, I wholeheartedly endorse the nominations of Mr. Alvaro Santos and Dr. Rita Sablan. Together, they embody the spirit of service and excellence that defines our organization. Thank you for your consideration.
Senora Nao Camacho. The floor is still open for public comments.
Kunanga sususulalo kuzo ko folder. Guisa stizi nuebu na kalendaryo escaleran pulan samoro refalowash papel maram. Nuebu stino pick up is mizu calendario. This is the ancient lunar calendar, 13 months. Sinangangani dafa siya na klasin guihan zan katkwet na pinatina si say na yalom tasi para tafampiska patakano kumuman natibo. And what a nice segue to talk about Ifeng Costa. Amaga tumaluani, laluwas mamay ng lihimi, guahu ilahin mizu bisinun mizu, si John Oliver, De Los Reyes, Pangilinan, Palacios, Sablan, Gonzales, no line no Lucian Bolis, and si Tampap Thomas Sablan. No za sumen maguvzugwini bay foto para ta adahi zan tapulan idos na guahguan na fengkas ifinati na si Zota covenant negotiators iza hululo idiritsotta perpetually para ta fanduenyon itanota ni dididi zan istigi i corpus funding para I hope, and I would challenge the two hopefully no re-approved trustees together with trustees Philip Long and trustees Carla Kamatsu, and of course the hopefully pending trustee from Luta, because we must do no less. I'm not going to touch on the credentials because, by the ways, I ask respectfully, graciously, I salute Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apatang for auspiciously nominating such two fine individuals. When I grow up, I want to be like them. And I mean that because they have stellar, outstanding no services in various sectors, not to mention their minasapit niha, put maniskwela man edzak para uma ispeyusi hita ni manatati put no inadahi zan tiningo para ta responsably umadahi tanota. And so I'm here to talk about, and I actually downloaded some stuff from the website and even the citizen-centric report. As you may know, I'm also the president for Northern Marianas Descent Corporation and has been for the last 4 or 5 years. And it is in that vein also. We have had a few sessions with trustees, with Atta as chairman, with Herman Nong as chairman, and with Speaker Paduna as chairman as well. For the primary reason of what I will share today, and I look at the 23 or the website, and by the ways, it needs to be updated because the strategic plan was for 2010 to 2013. No, we need to do a better job in being transparent and updated and sophisticated and modernized so that we can reach out to the privileged role the trustees play for or uphold for us as NMD owners of the funds. If I look at MPLT duties and responsibilities on the website, letter B, Roman numeral small case 4, it says that there are no earmarks in the distribution. This is as to the duties and responsibilities of the trustees to the general fund, as the legislature has the authority to allocate these funds among the competing needs of the Commonwealth. For 20 years, in my capacity as an adult, I respectfully ask the trustees to revisit this, because I believe, and I will not mince words, that allocating NMD monies for the benefit of non-NMDs is unacceptable, and I think is a unequivocal, irreparable violation of the fiduciary trust of trustees, and for that matter, our elected leaders. I think we need to make sure that we tanasahni sa lapit ta za tagastoji tanarafan mamiresi imanduenyo meggay naman am kota man motay manieluta famagonta pamparentesta man mapusesta lo ni pungpung ni un centimus ti mabeneficio isalapit ta gwinigi MPLT. Por favor, ugagawaham ni trustees, maila zata, let's be bodacious, and an interpretation is only an interpretation until we implement it. Because munga na tafan seha sa lapeta izota ta nafan manmiresi I diputsi no mandueño. And I asked that. I was looking at the citizen-centric report for 2022 and 2023, which, by the way, was not up on the website. I had to go to the public auditor and the legislature's website, and thankfully I found those reports. And I noticed that because I have limited time, I will appear in the trustees meetings later. I noticed that in the difference between 2022 and 23 CCR, citizen-centric report, there was 5 million, a little over 5 million of increase in the investment of the funds. My question is this a decent return on investment, knowing that we have about 100-some million that has been invested in the money markets abroad? Is this a decent return? And if not, then is this a cause for concern? Okay. What's the historical trends of market return on investments performances per decade? We would like to see that, no? So we know that, in fact, the fiduciary trust role and responsibilities and then investments are placed appropriately so that we can have a better return. Gisalapita. I also notice that the financial statement summary on the CCRs, I noticed that the liabilities doubled between 2022, it doubled in 2023. It was 284,888 in 22, and it doubled, the liabilities doubled to about almost $600,000. I'm curious to find out what's that liability, what's that increase? And is that also, does that impact the performances on our revenues in order to get the best ROI, return on investment? I also noticed that the 2023, why the increase from FY22 of almost 1.27 million with respect to distribution to beneficiary to a negative of almost 2.85 million. No, we would like to know those things. And I ask respectfully our trustees to please look at those and keep us be transparent and accountable, and make sure that please we know these things so we can help you post this information to our NMDs. And lastly, I close with the following. In both citizen-centric reports are what's to look ahead. And they're exactly the same in terms of allocation of funds, investment. And I will look at these more moving forward. Is this how trustees on our behalf of NMDs who have never received direct benefits see and govern and monitor all these millions of dollars ever since? To what extent is that fiduciary trust and and how can we be more bodacious and proactive and progressive to make sure na if mag-uunta ni manatatisan, hita mismo gipresenti, tafan man mi resi ni mismo sa lapita. There's thousands of unemployed out there. Mantay gima, man mahalla karetan niya, idibin niya, their credit histories have all been shattered because the economy is in shambles. How can MPLT funds save the dignity of our Northern Marianas descent, whose trusts have been in place in trustees since 1983? By the way, we should be celebrating 40 years because it was the first trustees were appointed by Governor Teno in 1983, and now it's 2023, well, 41 years. And I think we should celebrate that and use it as a strategic nexus to re-strategize the strategic plan for the next 50 years, for that matter. That was my first question. We are building, by the way, we should salute our trustees for building the corpus funds from an initial 20-some million dollars to about, an increase of about $76 million plus dollars. My question is, and listen, pwede man ikungukit klaro, what are we building the MPLT funds for? And most importantly, who are we saving and investing our MPLT funds for? Para Hadzi para ang beneficio nisti. Okay? And I hope that we don't use this so that the government, whenever it has no need for money, comes to MPLT, and yet our children with no jobs, no education because they cannot afford college, no homes because they're mansinsasaga, yes nang si tang or si mom and dad. I hope that man malongo and for preventive health, the health network program for medical referral, home insurance, car insurance, nisisidot in order to survive and thrive in this dog-eat-dog world, modern world, that we find some solutions and forget the interpretations, but be more bodacious and forthcoming and progressive in investing the money that can directly benefit as NMD owners. How about these funds give some financial reprieve to our middle income who have, under the United States economic system, continue to be deprived because they don't qualify for programs that only the low income, below poverty level qualify for. The cost of living, iningkano gofguaguan, za middle income, they don't qualify for home programs, but ningkano zanhafa kosinya tanagwaha no remedio anaisinya salapeta middle income tanafan man miresi zogwaha mas no emotional and spiritual and mental stability, because to temper this really difficult economy and life that we are all facing now. All our manomkus have passed on and never tried receiving direct benefits of their MPLT funds. All our covenant founders who have passed on, sadly, regretfully, have left and never merited or deserved the direct benefits that they gave their life to. I just met Tumbentungi Santos, the vice chairman of the Political Status Commission, last week, and we continue to have these conversations. I hope that him and the 3 other surviving covenant negotiators can be able to leave in dignity, and the rest of us, so that we can have some solutions, no? Si Zeus Masi, and I wish Uncle Ao and Sis Dr. Sablan well, because I know that we can trust on you with your colleagues to revisit and really ask who is it for and what is it for. Si Zeus Masi, the maila sa tapulan sa tadahi, sa we can do no less obligasyon ta para man mamayla na tiempo. Thank you. Hiliso.
Jesus Masi, Senor John Oliver de los Reyes Pangilinan, Falashes Sablan Gonzalez. I finally got it right. I hope in that order. I tried to take notes. I do listen. Pues dankon na Jesus Masi, Senyor Gonzales, por el testimonio niyon pubinizi e dos prójimo ni mangagi paguguni ni para evalua ni komite e capacidad niya po fan manya biggest i Marianas Public Land Trust, Jesus Masi. Buenas tardes. The floor is still open for public comments. If there are no other individuals who wish to come forward to provide public comments, I just wanted to state for the record that we have received letters of support for the two individuals before this committee this afternoon rather, and received no letters in opposition of the nominations. Today, we will evaluate the nomination from the executive branch in the name of Mr. Alvaro A. Santos and Dr. Rita A. Sablan, nominated as trustees for the Marianas Public Land Trust. These nominations require the advice and consent of the Senate, a procedure unique to the Senate. And this is part of our democratic process in which the legislature exercises its authority under the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth to vet the credentials of the nominees beyond their educational or professional experience. So I welcome both nominees this afternoon. And at this time, I will turn the floor over to the nominees should they wish to make any opening remarks or address the committee. But before we turn over the floor, I'd like to ask both of you to please rise and raise your right hand. Our legislative assistant will administer the oath to you.
Dr. Rita A. Sablan and Alvaro A. Santos, you do solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. Dr. Sablan, you have the floor first if you wish to address the committee or the public. You may do so at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of this committee. I'm happy to return back. It's only been 10 months, so I'm still one of your babies over at the MPLT, having a learning curve to be able to keep up with our chairman, a great leader in the area of finances. Has really been very astute in all of the things that we have done over the last 10 months. I am happy to be back and to also be renominated to the MPLT Board of Trustees. I look forward to continuing my service to be able to ensure that the MPLT funds is in the right place. That is all, and I do ask everyone, all of you that are here, to please support our renomination, as we are very, very happy to serve, continue to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sablan. Thank you for your service, and thank you for committing to continuing the work that you have done over the last 10 months at least. Now we will turn over the floor to Mr. Santos. Should you wish to address the committee, you may do so at this time.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I also would like to thank the Governor, Governor Palacios, for his confidence in renominating me to serve again in the Marianas Public Land Trust. I believe that we made a lot of headways during this 10-month period, collectively as trustees, and I wish to pursue the goals that we have established for ourselves and the land trust. And I'm excited that I have a very, very good and working group of hardworking people that works alongside my beliefs in how to provide future direction for the land trust. So I thank the governor, the administration, and also the persons that have expressed their support for our renomination. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I am ready to answer any question to the best of my abilities.
Thank you. And likewise, Mr. Santos, we appreciate your service over the last 10 months and actually in your previous tenure as trustee for the MPLT. Welcome again to your Senate chamber. I can begin the question, and I just have some follow-up questions from your previous confirmation hearing, which was held, actually, it's been over a year. Your last confirmation hearing was conducted, or you were confirmed on April 20th of last year. And your term unfortunately had expired on January 9th of this year. So that's why we're having this another hearing subsequent to that confirmation. Now that this question is posed for Dr. Sablan, now that you've had an opportunity to get a glimpse of what the obligations are of the MPLT trustees, what are some of the challenges that you have experienced over the last 10 months?
Let me tell you that the challenges over at MPLT, they're not easy. There's so much. And really trying to make sure that the funds that we have will continue to grow and yield good returns. And so monitoring that is going to be something that, will be a constant. As far as challenge is concerned, I believe that at the very beginning, I was in a meeting, in many meetings, that I would just ask questions like, what does that mean? How do I know that that's what it means? How do I know that it's going to help the MPLT funds, continue to grow? And so those were really my challenges. So I had some sleepless nights to be able to read and understand what MPLT is all about. So I had an opportunity to overcome the challenges. I had an opportunity to attend a training that allowed me to understand a little bit about investment and all the lingos that are associated with it. So that's that. I think I just want to rest it at there. Just the challenges and trying to make sure that we have a very sound investment policy statements. As far as working with the other trustees, we have a great relationship. We're able to, have a great interaction in our meetings. So I don't have any other of that. I treat myself very professionally so that I can continue to make informed decisions of what is needed at MPLT.
Thank you, Dr. Sablan. You mentioned that you were able to overcome those challenges, or at least some of them. Having had that opportunity to attend this training, to update your knowledge on investments and things that MPLT deals with, what are your priorities now moving forward, knowing challenges that you face coming in and overcoming some of those challenges? What are your priorities for MPLT? Because your priorities may differ from other members or other trustees. So your personal priorities.
Well, I do hope that we all have a very similar priority so that what we do is seamless and transparent for the MPLT. So one of the most important thing that I really learned is the investment policy statement that we must make sure that we have in place, because that helps us to make informed decisions of how we are to, allocate our assets and how we are to to work with our money managers, our financial advisors. And so with the leadership of our chairman, he was able to really help me understand, where the priorities are and how that should happen. So having been trained or participated in training to learn how to develop and come up with a sound investment policy statement is really very important. And as a result of that, the trustees all together felt that it is necessary for us to, because we're looking at two different portfolios, right? We're looking at the general fund as one, and then we look at the American Memorial Park as another one. So both have very different plans, both have very different management plan. So what is it that we want the general fund to achieve? And what is it that we want the American Memorial Park Fund to achieve? So it appears to us that, if we work on the general fund to be able to get high yield results, then that's what we want, because we want to be able to take care of, like John Gonzalez is saying, where is, the fund is growing. What are you guys doing about it? Is there something that can be done about that? And then the American Memorial Park Fund doesn't have an immediate need for any of its funds as we grow it, but in the long run, they will. So how do we ensure that that is taken care of? So having to be able to manage two different policy statements to meet the needs of these funds is very important. So that was one training that I really, really appreciated the most. And also with the leadership of our chairman, making us to really focus on the need of the general fund and where it's supposed to go, and the American Memorial Park in terms of why we're growing the money and what is it for. So the intention is clear.
I'm glad you mentioned the American Memorial Park. Can you help us understand exactly the very answer you just gave? Why are we growing that money? As far as I know, I haven't seen any improvements at the American Memorial Park. If anything, it has deteriorated over the years. So what is that corpus for? What is that investment for if we can't improve, especially in the heart of the tourist district, where everybody can see, locals and visitors alike can see the dilapidated facilities, or like the amphitheater and the surrounding, areas. Can we use it to fix the erosion at Micro Beach, which is part of the American Memorial Park, or at least managed partly the grounds, at least groundskeeping? Help us understand what the American Memorial Park investment is all
right.
about.
So I believe the National Park Service, the what do they call them?
Rangers?
Well,
What?
the lady that works there, the ranger. Oh my God! Sorry about that senior moment, but there's a ranger that is supposed to, come up with a plan on how the funds are to be expended, right? But I'm sure that that is not her immediate plan, right? So I don't know what her plans are, but when there is a request that they will need to draw down any kind of funds, that we should be ready to do that, because the park fund is basically for infrastructure projects at the Memorial Park here in CNMI or in Saipan, for improvements and stuff like that. So do I go there and tell her, well, you have this money, when are you going to use it? So at one point we did have a meeting, and the immediate priority was to really have on board a couple of staff that will help to, provide some education to the community, and at the same time, an FTE that would be needed to do some, maintenance work. So that's been taken care of. But as far as the bigger infrastructure improvement, that is their call. So
Thank you for that. Just to point it out, we have an erosion problem at Micro Beach that we need to mitigate. And I think some of those American Memorial Park investments could go towards that. And I suggest that you follow up with the ranger there. and I'm not sure who it is. I think it's Brooke, who is Nevitt.
No,
Is she still there?
I don't know if she's still there, but the ranger is based out of Guam. If that is my
Okay.
understanding in
Okay.
our meeting, yeah, she's based out of Guam.
I think
But it's a good
MPLT, the trustees,
proposition.
should
Thank you.
reach out, or if anything, create the plan for
Okay.
them. Otherwise, we're just investing for no reason.
Thank you,
How do we
Chair.
know how much to invest, and what is the goal of that investment in terms of dollars if we don't know and we don't have
Right.
a plan for it? So if, you know,
Thank you.
reaching out perhaps to the National Park Service would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And I know you guys have other things on your plate right now with the line of credit issue and everything else. But my next question is posed for Mr. Santos. In your previous confirmation hearing before this before this committee, we asked about the land that was purchased here in Capitol Hill in 2006, or you would know best. You were serving in that as a trustee then. It's the Camacho land here in Capitol Hill. And you mentioned that there was at the time it was purchased that an A&E firm has been contacted to come up with the design. Do you know the status? That was one of the questions that we asked to be updated on after your confirmation, and we have not received anything to date yet. So I'm wondering, has that plan moved forward to develop that property to actually build a building for the Marianas Public Land Trust?
Yes, Madam Chair, the first time that I explained to the committee a little bit of history of how that came about, how the purchase came about, and let me just try to make it in a shorter fashion. First of all, when MPLT was established in 1983, it did not have an office. At one point in the beginning, it was housed in the financial consultant's apartment, and records were stored there, and meetings were held there. And then I think eventually, after a decision came from the court that gave MPLT $26 million as a starting corpus, that's when it was able to go out and lease office space. When I came on board in 2006, I discovered that the office had been moved 6 times from one place to another. Government facilities were asked but were denied. At one point, they were given a piece of land up here. MPLT started to get it surveyed. In fact, it expended about $1,500 for the survey, and then the governor at the time just changed its mind and decided to use that piece of land for the Palau consulate. So MPLT had to give up that designation. Then it went on to lease a space over at the settlement farm building now, a small space, and that's where, when I came on board 2006, that the land trust was using that small office space. So the space was so small that it has the meeting place, the working space of the employees, and as well as a storage for all the records. So we resorted to borrowing the retirement fund at the time to use their conference room or meeting room to conduct trustee meetings. There were a lot of inconveniences at the time. space was extremely limited. There was no privacy when it came to meetings where we have to discuss sensitive issues with money managers and investment informations. So we decided to move out and rent a building down at Morgan's building. We were there for several months. Then the governor at the time again offered us the EMS building next to the former Department of Finance down here. MPLT spent 39,000 renovating that place to make it suitable for our needs. Then, in less than 2 years, they asked us to move out because EMS wanted to expand its operation and needed the building. So there we were again, looking around for office space. I went to DPL, tried to negotiate to designate a building for us to renovate and have our own office space. But then I was advised that they could not designate a building unless we have to renovate a frame, a shell, and that we were going to spend $95,000. And there was no guarantee that we will be in that building for 5 years or longer. And I thought that was imprudent investment, with no timeline, no security to make our investment worth the amount of money that we had to spend. So again, I was advised at the time that Capitol Hill was being reserved for future commercialization spot for investors, and that the government cannot commit any long-term designation of public buildings up here. So that prevented again, that created another hurdle for MPLT. So that's when we as trustees decided we have to go out and look for our own place. And we consult with our legal counsel whether we can purchase private land. And he did some research, legal review, and he said, yes, you can do it. So we went around looking for properties here at Capitol Hill, and we found 6. But then we started having one problem after another. Some were dedicated for a chapel, another one was in family litigation, fighting over it. Another one was, and all of these were good spots. Another one was already leased to a Japanese firm. Another one, they want us to buy their land that is out there in the boonies, and we were asking for frontage. So things like that create a lot of inconvenience for the trustees. So finally, we were able to find one with the Camacho family. Vicente and Martina Camacho have a land down here that has a roadside frontage. So that's when we negotiate with the family, and we were able to get the 4,000 square meters of land, appraised value of $71. We got it for $68 per square meters. And just when we were ready, issuing out RFPs for A&E, and by the way, we started receiving some proposals from from construction companies to design our buildings. We had the 2008 financial crash, and the government was in very dire financial strait at the time. The administration at the time asked us to withhold back our plan to construct our office building because they wanted us to continue remitting the annual distributable income, which was averaging at the time between 2,300,000 to 2,500,000. So we froze our project because of the situation with the government at the time. So that's the story of our land, Madam Chair.
Thank you. In your previous hearing, you recounted everything that you stated. However, it has been at least 18 years since that property has been purchased. It's a 4,000 square meter property purchased at $68 per square meter, according to your last testimony, or roughly about $272,000. But my concern is that it has been over 18 years. Nothing has been developed on that property. So, what is the priority for that property and the funds that have already been expended to actually build a building for the Marianas Public Land Trust? According to your last testimony, RFPs were issued for office design. Shortly thereafter, the governor at the time requested to hold back the project, but then it seems like nothing has moved forward from that time. So are there any plans as a trustee now, should you be confirmed, are there any plans moving forward to improve that property? Otherwise, it was a purchase for what exactly?
I cannot have the answer for you on the subject now, Madam Chair, because I need to consult with the other trustees if confirmed. But let me just step back here. In 2012, when after we froze our project, I exited MPLT. So since 2012, I left MPLT, and it was other trustees that came on board, and if the land sat idle for that length of time, then I will say that it was the decision of the trustees that succeeded me to not to do anything about it. Just point of information also. At the time, just before I left MPLT, back in 2012, the government gave MPLT one building up there, the present building, and MPLT at the time renovated that shell and spent a little over 200,000 to make it what it is today. There was a little bit of expansion and a lot of renovation that, according to the records, MPLT, when I left, spent a little over 200,000 to renovate the whole building. And in my opinion, because they allowed MPLT to do the renovation and use the building up until now, probably that is the reason why they let the owned property sit idle all this time. Now, moving forward, I will need to discuss with the other trustees, what do we plan to do with this? Are we going to just have it as a security in case in the future some administration again will have other priorities, like what happened previously, and maybe we could just hold on to it in case we get moved around again from from that government building because that is just a designation. And
And that's the reason why I ask you this, because it's been 18 years.
yes,
It was an urgent need back then.
exactly, yes.
And like you said, you've exited as a trustee from MPLT, and I think it should have been a priority because whatever building you guys are occupying now does not belong to MPLT and
Yes.
could, be evicted again or be asked to relocate. So if it was urgent, then
If
you know,
I
it
were
should-
with the MPLT still at the time, Madam Chair, very surely I will pursue building our office building in that land that we bought.
should you be
At
confirmed,
yes, at that time, we actually budgeted 700,000 to construct our office building there and to be self-sustaining. I had all that design. It's going to have its own water, its own power, water catchment generators, and everything. But my plan and the trustees at the time, it looks like after that,
Mhm.
everything was just put on hold. So,
Understood, and we're not putting the onus on you in particular. It's just that we brought it up in the last meeting, and I think if you guys were to build a building there, it's an investment. But you could also rent out office spaces to other government entities who are homeless right now, and are renting outside, of the government. Next question. You mentioned that roughly around 2006, when you first came on board to MPLT, the remittance from MPLT to the general fund was roughly around 2.3 to 2.5 million per year. Recent budget submissions from the administration indicate that there's only about 800,000 available to be remitted to the general fund. However, that's not being remitted because it is being used to pay a loan that the executive branch took out with MPLT for U2, if I'm not mistaken.
yes.
But yeah, based on the records we receive from the budget submissions every year, it's only 800,000. So I'm wondering why the significant decrease. I get it. We invest in the stock market, or the trustees invest in the stock market, but that seems like a pretty large dip in the available interest, to go over to the general fund. Can you help us understand, aside from the fluctuations of stock market performances, what other contributions could play a role in that significant decrease of remittance?
My explanation to that, Madam Chair, will be when the U2 loan, as Dr. Sablan mentioned earlier, that initially it was supposed to be on a reimbursement arrangement. That
Similar to the current line of
the
credit bill that is in
administration
the
at the
Senate.
time made an arrangement with FEMA that it will be on a reimbursement arrangement, just like the EDA that we have been discussing recently.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that did not happen. The reimbursement did come, but the government did not pay MPLT, and then it was converted into a term loan. It became a loan, not a line of credit. The face has changed.
Whose decision was it to convert it to a loan? Was it
Well,
MPLT
I'm sure
trustees?
the trustees at the time agreed to make it a term loan because of the administration at the time's failure to honor the earlier arrangement of reimbursement method. Where did the reimbursement go? Possibly to the general fund. I don't want to speculate further than that. But uh, the bottom line here is that the arrangement was not honored, and then it was converted into a loan. So now every year, that is due to distribute, to make the distribution to the government, is used to offset
Yes.
the U2 loan,
Yes.
which right now
But that has come down to 800,000 from 2.3 to 2.5 million in 2006. And like I said, I know that the fluctuations in the stock market play a significant role in that. But that seems like a really big difference. You're talking 1.23 million dollars in a decrease in remittance from Marianas Public Land Trust to the general fund. And we get the 800,000 from the budget submission that is provided to the legislature every year. And like you said, it's offset at this point. Yeah.
So
What other
so-
factors?
So the full amount, Madam Chair, is used to offset the loan. Principal,
How much does MPLT
principal and
spend?
interest.
Okay, how much does MPLT spend on their money managers? And I know you have numerous.
Chair,
Money managers.
just to clarify, what the chairman is saying is that it's actually to some, but they deducted the loan
Oh,
payment.
okay.
Or
Is
is
that
that
correct?
what you're saying? Because we understood it to mean take the whole years and
Yeah.
offset. So is it,
The whole earning is distributed over to, supposedly distributed to the government,
Okay.
to the legislature, minus the operating expense of MPLT. Whatever.
Yes, the
left
question is
there.
how it's showing 800,000,
Yeah.
and the chair saying, is that the interest income for the whole interest income? It's the net, right? The whatever the whole interest income less the debt service is 800,000.
Yes, and it will
Okay.
be used to service the debt.
So what was the total income then for? You're
Yeah.
talking about this projection this year.
Yeah.
So what's the total?
If it's the net, they're still offsetting that loan because it doesn't get remitted. Hasn't been remitted to
It
the.
doesn't get remitted.
Yeah.
So
They're still using
MPLT
it
will,
as an offset.
so it is used to offset the U2 loan. Now MPLT takes that money back and reinvest it in the market with the money managers. Are you reading me?
I think the question is it 800,000 income or is it?
Yeah.
Why is it was 2
Interest,
point some
that's-
and then now it's 800? That's the
Yeah.
question.
That's the interest income.
So it went down. Your investment return went down. Is what you're saying. I see Chairman back there. Can we get a clarification?
Sure.
If you want to assist,
Perhaps we're
Mr.
not
Chair.
communicating our questions properly. And Chairman Long, you're welcome to join us. You understand my question, right? I hope I was able to explain it. In 2006, when Mr. Santos was a former trustee, the amount that was being remitted from the interest income was 2.3 to 2.5, roughly. Lately, as of the last 2 years, 2 fiscal years at least, it's only got 800,000. So we're trying to understand and probably help MPLT why the significant decrease in interest income? Is
Yeah.
it because poor performance on the stock market? Okay, so help us understand.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, trustees, for allowing me to speak. But the I was speaking to my executive director, and please excuse us as we're all new coming into a trust that's been operating without us for the last 10 plus years, and somebody that's absolutely new. But the last 2 fiscal years or 3 fiscal years from 2019 to 2021 was 2.2 million, 2 million, and 1.5 million. So we have no idea where the 800,000 is coming from. But we would be giving notice to the governor's office and the secretary of finance that this is the allotted distribution for the year, meaning this is the interest income earned on the portfolio for this year. And then essentially we are withholding that amount to pay your U2 debt. But the 800,000, I apologize, Chairwoman, we don't know where that number is coming from. And we have the records of the remittance and the records of the return.
Very interesting. Thank you for that response, because that's all the numbers we're seeing in the budget submission from the administration. And we have consulted with our legal counsel. Actually, Jolynn is the LA assigned to the FA committee. She has been assigned to work on with the respective chair over the last, I don't know, decade that she's been here. So she's very familiar with what is submitted over from the administration, and that's all we see. And we've posed these questions amongst ourselves when we deliberate on the budget. Why is it only 800,000 that we are earning supposedly? But now that you've clarified, I appreciate that. In any rate, it's still decreasing over the years, so I'm concerned about that. Do we need to change our money managers? What do we need to do to up the interest income?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We actually did that. So that's the first thing we did as a new trust is we held a portfolio review. We met with our beneficiaries, and that included the House Speaker, the Senate President, the Governor, the Lieutenant Governor for the general fund, and then as well as the American Memorial Park. As Dr. Sablan had mentioned, we met with the superintendent in Guam to determine what their financial needs are, because they're our beneficiary. At that point, one said that they didn't need the money. The other one said that they need money immediately. So we went to work and developed an entire new portfolio for the general fund, which would increase from the 1.5 million that you see last year to probably about 2 million this year. We're hoping the next year under this new portfolio will be north of 3 million, closer to 4 million. And the idea is to accelerate the debt service for you two to get that loan paid off. So then we can help the general fund as our beneficiary named in the Constitution, so that they would have more money to appropriate through your body to help indigenous population or whatever you guys deem fit for that appropriation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That has satisfied my question to my satisfaction.
And then just
At
one
least.
other thing.
And we can talk about it offline with this 800,000.
Sure. The 1.5 was one of the worst years in financial history. So every single portfolio in the world was hit pretty hard. So that's why you saw a 1.5 million drop from 2 million.
Thank you. I recognize Senator Paul Manglonia.
So can you please explain what do you mean by local investment? Because you're saying in one of the reports that there's a local investment. Just so I can understand here, you're saying there's 49% of your portfolio is in local investment, right? And that's I just kind of want to understand, what do you guys mean by that? Because I'm sorry. Well,
Yes, yes, Senator. We call that the diversified local investment. And right now, after we got on board 10 months ago, we restructured our asset allocation, that we put like 30% for local investment.
okay. So I just
Yes.
I just want to ask. That's the what they are. So according to the report here, saying the government U2 loan now, right? The NMHC home loan program,
Yes.
Tinian shipping, and CACC loan.
Yes.
That's only 15 million, so or 14 million. What are the others? I'm just curious.
Right now, our target was to allocate 30% in our investment policy statement. But actually, right now, at this point in time, we're investing only 12 to 13% under those local programs.
Okay, so it's not 51, right? It's
no,
not, okay, so
no, it's not.
okay, and so even if you take that, even if you're saying 15 million at 5%, right? That's 15 at 5,
You too.
700 some thousand, $800,000.
Mhm.
So so you're saying we're not making anything in our from our fund managers? We're not getting any return?
Yes, from our money managers, the U2 loan we have assessed 7.5%.
Well, I'm just saying that something's not wrong with our investment. In the stock market, it's not really coming out. Like I guess Mr. Gonzalez earlier mentioned 5%. What's the average return on our market investment out there from the fund managers? Anybody know what's the average return in the last 2-3 years?
Well, out there in financial market, Senator, many factors affect the risk out there and the returns. The dynamics of the market pretty much dictates how much we get. We can have a wonderful asset allocation, but the behavior of the market, we have crashes, we have inflation, and many other factors. That's why in this industry, nothing is really precise as we would like it to be, because geopolitical tensions around the world, financial crisis.
So I'm just
So
mentioning
those
this.
affect.
With all due
Yes.
respect, I'm just mentioning this because there are opportunities locally now to invest here, right? I think you can make your money go further by looking at investment opportunities locally. You're gonna get 5%, right? And I guess I might be stepping ahead. We're talking about 15 million, 20 million investment for those CIP projects, and that's at 5%. And I think if you language it, structure it, securely, then that would be a guarantee return versus out there. So I'm saying try maybe the percentage. I don't know. I'm not a financial person, but I'm just saying that if you take half of what you have, 50 million at 5%, that's 2.5 million a year in interest, right? And so that's a lot safer than trying to put it out there. Most of
Yes,
it in the stock market.
at least we get a return when we assess, like the LOC, for example. It's been agreed that 5.5% will be acceptable to everybody, but at the same time, U2 loan right now stands at 7.5% interest rate assessed to it. One unique feature also about the local investment, which is essentially social investing. There's such a thing as some of you are familiar about the corollary benefits that is not really applicable to a large extent out there in financial market, but more like, okay, what benefit does it generate for the community? That's social investing. And there sometimes we sacrifice monetary returns because of the impact and benefits that it will generate for the community. That's corollary benefit, as opposed to out there in the financial market where we use benchmarks and indices.
Well, I don't want to distract from the
Yeah.
chair, but I guess I'm kind of leading toward that because earlier comments from the public, they talk about local NMD, right, investment, and so that's where I'm looking at maybe home loans for NMDs, right? Because as a matter of fact, that's what you did. You actually took over a loan program when it was failing, but if we structure it in such a way that, for example, let me give you an idea: the middle income people in the CNMI. There's really no housing programs for them, and they're very good borrowers because they're capable to pay for their loans, but there's no program out there at MIHA for middle income, and that could be something that you guys can have for the NMDs. So NMD benefit doesn't have to be at the end of the year distribute the income. It could be your loan program making available uh, uh, what do you call that, loan for homes, and who are the applicants? I guess they're most of them are NMDs, right? Because you need to secure collateral the land to the loan, so that could be an area where actually the NMDs can benefit because they're actually being hurt by the fact that there's Article 12 because they couldn't. Some of them have a hard time getting a veterans loan or market out there no interest rate because of the Article 12 issue. So the more reason you can have local programs for middle income borrowers. Just I wanna just throw that out.
Maybe that is something that we can be discussing in the future, Senator. Nowadays, it looks like there are one problem after another that is coming our way. We have the U2 that has not been retired yet, and the government is pursuing now to front load in its front load capital for EDA projects. And the way we are being informed is that there may be other future federal grants that come our way, but like the local government has to front load the and arrange for a reimbursement method arrangement. And MPLT is one source of funding that can make available that, provided that it meets our requirement to fulfill our fiduciary duty with respect to the land trust funding.
Okay. Thank you. I will recognize other members. At this time, recognize Senator Corina Magofnia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to you both, Dr. Sablan and Mr. Santos and Mr. Philip Mendiola Wong. Again, congratulations on your renomination, and thank you for accepting the commitment to continue to serve in the trustee capacity. So I have a lot of questions, but before I ask them, I would like to ask either of you or both of you if you would like to address the plethora of questions that Mr. Gonzalez had mentioned during his public comment.
I would like to say that, let me put it this way. The mandate of the land trust is primarily to invest leases of public lands. That's in the Constitution. I believe that that's the paramount obligation of MPLT. Whatever earnings it generates out there by investing in the markets, it is obligated by the Constitution to remit it to the government. And our authority stops there. MPLT is not mandated by the Constitution to create programs. That is the primary responsibility of MPLT. Anything outside of that, we will yield to the government, to the legislature and the governing administration to address that. Our primary responsibility is to invest and try to grow the corpus and preserve, conserve for posterity. Anything outside of that, we're not authorized. Did I answer your question, Senator?
I mean, if that's your answer, I'm just asking, I guess, on behalf of Mr. Gonzalez, what,
From the
what your
first time
understanding
that I served here, I've been asked many times, even individuals, why MPLT is not doing this, and this. And my responses have been consistent from way back then, that our responsibility is to grow the corpus, do our best to earn income for the portfolio, remit it over to the government, and the government appropriates or does whatever it wants to do with what we remit.
I guess that would be acceptable. Dr. Sablan, any comments or response back to?
Yes. So I'm glad that John did come to this meeting, and hopefully he will return or come back to MPLT to tell us a little bit more about what he really is thinking and how the beneficiaries will be able to, I guess, benefit from the programs or from the investments, right? So I think with the way that our asset allocation has been designed or planned is that there is what we call the diversified local investment. So that would be an opportunity for, investment here in the Commonwealth. So an example of that Senator Paul had mentioned about those loans, right? The loan program with NMHC. So that would be an opportunity. And I think it is an area where we can continue to discuss further to see how we can, make it more accessible to our community here in the CNMI. So yeah, I like to think about that too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your response.
Along that line, just following up, I know that you guys have looked at other trust organization, or like the Bishop State, right, and other bodies similar to MPLT. Is there a recommendation you can make to the body that not necessarily talks about the increased income every year, the 2.5 million every year, but rather that we keep it within your organization and you then promote the interest of NMDs, so that your organization then have that flexibility, not necessarily only to distribute by the way, how much do you think we're going to cut every year if it's 2 million to all the NMDs? I don't know. I keep hearing the check is worth more than the value of the check, right? To print it. So I'm just saying, if you have a language that would help MPLT, so that they take that interest income and then invest it, or through programs promote the interest of the NMD.
Senator, we can use models from the Bishop State in Hawaii, or from the tribes, Indian Native American tribes in the U.S., create banks, credit unions. But again, the language of our mandate has to be changed, has to have a different phase. Right now, we're restricted from pursuing
That's what I'm asking.
something like that.
To promote the interest of the NMD, is there a language that we can change so that we we put it all under MPLT, and that's their mandate, is to advance NMD interests.
I think that is doable. That's where the attorneys will get together and craft the appropriate language, and also look at the legality within the context of the restrictions of the Constitution. If that is the path that the leaders wish to pursue, uh, we're amenable to. But right now, we're restricted by our mandate. But yes, those ideas are doable, of course. But it is the leaders, the legislature, the administration who will have to I believe that will initiate that uh, strategy. If you guys want MPLT to have more authority over the disposition of the land trust money, uh, it is up to our leaders. That could be a subject of discussion in this body, the legislature, to amend the Constitution. Uh,
Okay. Thank you both to your responses. I understand your explanation is, based on your scope of work as a trustee. So I totally get it. But as an NMD yourself, do you share the same, I guess, question that Mr. Gonzalez poses as to the purpose of growing the investment for NMDs, and I believe his question was, so we're growing this money for the NMDs, but at what point do the NMDs get to benefit directly from these investments?
that concern can be broadly addressed in the fashion of creating programs. Like I say, a development bank can be created, programs that will benefit the public, the community. Monetary giving away is the least uh, effective way of giving, rewarding enemies for their ownership of the lands.
But that would only
That
benefit the few who would actually try and avail of that. If we're talking NMDs as a whole, like how do every single NMD person benefit from the investment equally
I would like to
and
see,
fairly?
Senator, programs and ventures where it's like a foundation where it can be perpetual, sustainable, not just a one time. I give you every year $5 because you're NMD.
Yes.
I will be doing the person an injustice,
Sure.
and that is business wise. That is not sustainable. That is not smart. Uh, and
And I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. So, do the trustees have anything planned for our NMD so that they can avail of those, advantages at a greater scale versus the annual dividends per se. For instance, what are some of the programs maybe that if the trustees are even considering in creating one? Are there any programs that the trustees are considering in creating so that our NMDs can benefit aside from just the investments?
Aside from the investment, that'll be right off the bat, as Senator, that's in contradiction to our responsibility that it has to be investment, monetary investment where we expect return.
Sure.
Now, we have members in our community that are not looking at that arrangement. They want give us, don't charge us mentality.
Right. So
We deserve it. We own it. Don't you lend us? No, that is the mindset that I have heard for a long time, and it still resonates up until this point in time.
I understand. I completely understand where you're coming from, and I do uh, uh, understand that the premise of this trust is to grow the money, right? Invest the money, make money off of it. So you mentioned development bank is probably one of the ways to, if we create a development bank that will probably give out loans to our NMDs, that be one way of investing. Another way would be the one that Senator Paul had just mentioned, where we give loans to the middle income families so that they could, I don't
Yes.
know what they want to do with the money. But
First time homeowners,
yes,
a credit union.
yes. So I mean, are those something that that MPLT would be willing to consider and possibly pursue?
From my
Again,
perspective, I would like to offer my perspective. I know that we're all trying our very best to make sure that the community understands what MPLT is. So one of our plan is to, with our chairman, is to conduct town hall meetings so that we
Yes.
can take this information out to our general community and say, this is MPLT, this is what we're all about.
Yes.
And so now we'd like to hear from you. What are you thinking? What do you think we should be doing about all these, investments, right? So until we do that, we'll have a better sense of, what the community is also feeling about MPLT.
Sure.
But right now, like he said, we have to make sure that we protect the interests of MPLT by making sure that our investments are sound.
Yeah.
And so we see the need for it to either yield a high return or yield growth for American Memorial Park. So that's where we are with this, and I hope that our plan to do the town hall meetings will encourage more people to come and learn what MPLT and what it can do for them as NMI descent of the CNMI.
And I think that is extremely
Yeah,
crucial
yeah.
because it appears that there may be some misunderstanding, misperception, a disconnect between, MPLT's fiduciary duties and what the public perceives it to be. And I think it's so important that MPLT conducts these town hall meetings so that they can properly convey the purpose and intent of this entity. I think that would be the first start so that we can minimize a lot of the unnecessary issues and dramas that arise. So I think you guys are on the right direction with that. In your 10 months, this is to both of you, in the 10 months that you have been in there, Dr. Sablan, you had mentioned that part of the learning curve was to understand what is it that the trust want, says what is it that we want on the general fund to achieve, and where do we want to go from there. So I would like to know, in the 10 months that you've been in there, what is your understanding of that objective and where are we going?
I know for the American Memorial Park, it's strictly. So for the American Memorial Park, it is strictly for the infrastructure projects and improvement of American Memorial Park. So we leave it there. And that we have to make sure that the funds that we invest will grow over time so that when they come to us and say, we need $1 million to do this improvement, like the erosion project, then we better have, something to be able to do that. So that is our plan for the American Memorial Park. And, it took me a while to really understand that because for the longest time, the way MPLT's investment policy statement works is that it is one and the same for both corpus or portfolio, right? But when Chairman Long came along, during our meetings, he thought it was necessary to be really providing equitable time and decisions for the general fund and the AMP fund. And so that was the making of trying to segregate the two so that we did give dedicated time to general fund and dedicated time for American Memorial. And as a result of that, I really had a better understanding of how now these two things have to work, right? Two portfolio have to work. So the goal of the general fund is to really yield high returns so that we can be able to, support whatever it is that we need to do here in the community for the government, or maybe offering other programs if
What's
necessary.
considered a high yield?
High yield,
Okay.
more than
Uh,
5 point.
What?
What is the high yield return? More than 5 point, right? I have to ask him because to me,
Okay, the general fund, we structured it as Senator to pursue yield, greater income for the general fund, because and it has a shorter time horizon because we have to make annual distribution to the government. Now the American Memorial Park, on the other hand, has a longer time horizon. That's why we structure it towards growth, and they don't make annual obligations other than what they ask us last year to set aside of their earnings, $130 some thousand for positions of 2 people for their park. They are not like us every year having to make distribution to our government. No, their approach is different. That's why the time horizon is different, and even the objective is different. Growth geared or growth driven, while for the general fund it is yield driven. We got to make money to be able to remit to our government. The American Memorial Park don't have to do that every year. Only when they have a project that needs funding, then they'll come to us and ask that, hey, you give us this much money of our earnings because we need it for this project. And that doesn't have that happens only once since we manage it, only once. And the National Park Service is the one that makes that decision.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Santos. Just for clarification, so the general fund is more short-term versus AMP is more long-term.
Yes.
And general fund is more yield-driven versus AMP is growth-driven.
Yes. Or
Another way to
okay.
put it would be that we're looking more for an income-driven
Sure.
strat plan for the general
understand.
fund so that we can try and close out the U2
Sure.
loan and continue to support the
So even with that explanation, right, there still has to be some measurement. And so one is income driven, right? Your yield. What would be the acceptable, or what is the target yield for the general fund, and the same thing for AMP? And okay, I guess let me hear your answers to that first.
For the general fund, we're looking based on our asset allocation, where we structured it to be yield driven, is to double the amount of money that we earn to give to the government every year.
But there has to be a target, right? There has to be, you would have to know what it is, what is your target and what is it for, in order for you to determine what that yield is. So if the government wants, an annual remittance of, let's say, $5 million, then that would kind of help determine what the yielding rate needs to be. So I guess that's what I'm asking right now. The explanation is that it's, for the general fund, it's an income driven, but what is the target annually?
Are you asking what would be
We
the expect-
expect we're looking at striving towards a 5.42 rate of return.
Rate, okay. Okay. And for the AMP,
6.55.
what is it?
6.55%. Yeah.
And I'm curious because, as the chairwoman has mentioned, I mean, you drive, close to AMP, and it's really deteriorating. It's in really bad shape. We see, I see a lot of tourists posing and taking pictures in front of the sign American Memorial Park, which is honestly quite embarrassing because the colors are faded, like you can barely see, what the signage says. And so I'm curious, this person who's in charge of, AMP is in Guam.
Yes,
And so how often does this person come to Saipan, take a look at what's going on at American Memorial Park, do an assessment, and plan what needs to be done? Because it's humiliating. I mean, it's just one of the tourist sites, right, that is frequently visited, not just by tourists, but even locals and even our very own people that come back from abroad to visit. I mean, it's one of our pride and joys, but we can't even maintain a simple signage with nice, fresh paint that says American Memorial Park. I mean, I know this is aesthetic, but it's very important. And it's probably very minimal to spend with something minimal to spend, but makes a big impact.
Yeah. So that was one of the very first things that we did, and our chairman actually did request a meeting with her to see where we can, support the programs or infrastructure at AMP. And she came out with her wish list, which would be the FTE. But that conversation needs to continue as to how we can, support them. So at the moment, they don't have any immediate plans. I believe they are getting support from the National Park Service or whatever, right? So we hope that we can come back and have another conversation.
Would you happen to know what the requirements are of this specific position that this person holds? I mean, do they have to be on island, or just what are the requirements? How often does the park need to be assessed and maintained? Like I know they cut the grass, but that's very minimal.
Right.
There's some areas there that are not really safe for our public to be walking around, and it's a liability. I don't know who the liability falls on, whether it's a state government or the federal government. I'm not quite sure on that, but just like minimal maintenance would be greatly appreciated. And honestly, aesthetics that can be like simple aesthetic changes can be made that would have great impact. So I would really like to get the contact information of this person and have a conversation with her myself, because I just feel that the park has been neglected far too long, and there's really no reason why, simple maintenance can't be done. So I'm probably barking at the wrong tree, but I just thought I'd mention that. Uh, on the citizen-centric report, the balance sheet shows a net position of $117 million with assets valued at $118 million and liabilities of $596,000. I would like to know what the composition is of those figures respectively. Are you guys able to provide that today, or do we know what the 180 million consists of? No.
Probably have to come back with that information, Senator.
Okay. What about the liabilities of almost $600,000?
600,000. I don't know.
So if you look at the financial statement, right? Statement of net position.
Oh, she has it. That's the operating expense, 600,000.
Are you referring, Senator, to the 600,000, 251?
No, if you look on page 3 of the citizen-centric report, under financial statement summary, statement of net position for fiscal year 2023, it breaks down the assets, liabilities, and the net position. So, which comes out to $117 million and then plus. But I would like to know, what do those figures comprise of?
We get the report from Bobby. I don't have that report
I
in
don't
front of me.
have that
So
with
Okay.
me right now, Senator, but I have some figures here that how much we pay our money managers in a year, and the financial consultant, and the operating expenses of MPLT.
So, okay, so in the same report under statement of revenue and expenses, that's your income statement, you have revenues of $4.1 million and expenses of 1.2. Does the 1.2 include the expense for your money managers and your consultants? How many money managers do we have?
We do have 10 money managers
10
presently.
money managers.
Yes.
And how many consultants?
Our financial consultant, we have one.
One financial consultant. And how much are we spending on these 10 money managers? And are they all paid, compensated differently? Or are they
On
all
the
same?
average per year, 349,000.
349,000 on
Yeah.
10 money managers.
Yes.
Okay. And the financial consultant?
And the consultant, 127,000.
127,000 for the
127,000.
consultant. Okay, so with that leaves almost $500,000 of the 1.2 is dedicated for
Yes,
managers, and then the
Yes.
other $600,000 is the operations for MPLT.
Yes.
Okay. How many FTEs are there under MPLT?
FTEs?
Yeah, or how many positions? How many employees does MPLT have?
We have 5 employees right
5
now.
employees. Do we know what are what we spend on those 5 employees annually? Just
Do you
cumulative,
have
like
the salary?
total.
For FY 2024, we budgeted at 262,000.
Okay. 262,000 for personnel.
Yes.
And so the remainder of about 400,000 would be on
That's the salary.
operations.
That's the salary and wages.
Sure. And then about 400,000 on operations.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for those information. And last, Chairwoman, there was an article on Saipan Tribune just on February 1st regarding MPLT frozen investments in Russia, and I wanted to know what is the status of that.
I remember in our last hearing, we had limited knowledge about the how that happened, but then we did an internal review of that. How did it come about? And one of the money managers was entrusted to manage that amount of money in the international market. And it so happened that that amount of money was invested in Moscow, Russia. The share bank that later resulted in it being impounded, sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury because of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And when we got on board, we inquired about how that came about and what is being done to recoup the money. Well, one of the initiatives that we did was we wrote a letter to the U.S. Treasury OFAC, Office of Foreign Assets Control, and we have not received a response yet. Another initiative that we made was we restricted investments in those geopolitical hotspots in Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, and now Russia. So with the geopolitical tensions around the world, we are very, very careful with where our money managers are investing in the international market outside of U.S. So when will that be released? We don't really know. We pleaded with in our letter to OFAC, and we're just waiting for some response. But we have taken some measures. Like I said, we restrict our money managers from making any further investments in those trouble spots.
Okay, just some follow-up questions, Chair, if I may. So one, did the U.S. Treasury or OFAC acknowledge receiving the letter that you sent, and what have they responded?
We have not received a response from them yet.
Okay, and then second, is that money manager still with MPLT?
Not in those areas. Not in those particular areas.
So he's still employed by MPLT.
To some extent, they still manage some of our portfolio. Of course, outside of those trouble spots.
But that particular money manager that took MPLT funds and invested in Russia, is is that person still with MPLT?
Yes.
Okay. And third, are there any other investments aside from this incident that we have invested in international markets? Or is that the only investment we have?
We have, yeah. I believe that only WCM.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I yield, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Magovnia. Are there any further questions? Recognize Senator Donald Manglonia.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I just have a few questions since members brought up some of the concerns. Have you had the chance to review DPL's financial reports and financial statements? And if so, have you found any concerns as to the way they've been remitting those monies, whatever's left of what they've used?
No, no, Mr. Chairman, we that is an area of contention between DPL and MPLT. They have been, for the most part, uncooperative with our requests for the longest time to know to get those kind of information, to make some kind of determination, like how much they are receiving for lease on public lands yearly. We don't have that kind of information, and unfortunately, they were not cooperating with us.
Chair,
So
if I
we're
may.
not sure.
Yeah.
Just for just another information is that, and we were very surprised that they have not been audited since 2019 FY. I find that very, very strange for an outfit like that, revenue generating agency that doesn't get itself audited for that many fiscal years. But again, that's their decision. But and of course, we cannot get accurate information from them, even if they give us, and particularly unaudited data.
Dr. Sablan, you have something you want to add?
You already said it. What I was going to add on to that was that we've met a few times and trying to see where we can work together, and I guess to make sure that we receive whatever needs to be remitted so that we can invest new monies into the market. But unfortunately, it has been very difficult of the fact that they have not been audited, and so they're not able to share any financial statement reports with us. So hopefully when they're done with their financial statements,
Did they at least mention that they're working on getting the audits done?
Yes, they said that they're working on it. I believe it's 20. They're so behind, so we're hoping that they can get up to speed and get some information to us right away.
Okay. Have you looked at their audits from 2019 prior? And then if you have, are there any concerns with any of the audits?
What I did was I did a search on the audits, the audit reports, and what I saw was on the OPA audit reports, and that was 2019, 2020.
Okay. I think, well, because right now we have a bill in the Fiscal Affairs Committee that would give them an additional 1 million for their operations. And so, I wanted to see where MPLT is at in terms of reviewing their audits to determine if more money should be coming to MPLT or, but, should you both be confirmed, I hope that's something that the trustees can get together and maybe write to the committee on your stance on the 1 million additional to DPL. Mr. Alvaro, you're the current treasurer. Dr. Sablan, do you serve on any committees within MPLT, or any? Do you hold any position within MPLT?
I have been assigned to lead the Personnel and Administrative Committee of the board.
Are there any significant changes since you've both been in there to any of the policies and practices that happened prior to you guys coming in? And if so, would you mind sharing what are some of the significant changes?
Yeah, one of the significant change is really looking at the organizational chart of MPLT, so that it's cleaned up, and so that we know who's reporting to who and what everyone's responsibility is. So other than restructuring or refining the organizational chart, we also requested for a desk audit for personnel to make sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, that what they're assigned to do, that it's done, they're efficient and effective. We're looking at our personnel policies to make sure they're consistent with the requirements of the state and federal government. As far as administrative policies, there are some that we have looked at as well, but nothing has been approved yet. Hopefully, our personnel committee is coming up so we can review the desk audit and review the personnel policies that were recommended.
Okay. Thank you. And just one last thing, I know Senator Paul also has something. Earlier, you were talking about what you can provide to AMP and what their request is, but according to one of your report, I forget if it was citizen centric or your audit, that you set aside at least 150 to AMP. To what extent does MPLT recommend that they use some of the monies for, or is it just simply providing them the funds when they request it? So, like, I know you said they're asking for 130,000 for personnel, but if you set aside 150, can you say, here's 20,000, why don't you paint, or why don't you address some of the safety concerns that are brought up by the community? Is that something that, and seeing as how hearing now that there's no direct access to a physical person on ground to address some of these concerns, is that something that can be brought up in your discussions with this individual that's not here on island?
I think, Chairman, for the longest time, our relationship with the American Park Fund is, or the American Memorial Park is, we just invested their money, report to them how much is their earnings, and they pretty much dictate how the money is to be used. We never venture to recommend projects like clean up the place, and I believe, and in my personal opinion, that was not our place to tell them how they should. Although they were dictated by the creation of the Park Fund to maintain the American Memorial Park, but we never tried to remind them of that responsibility. We just report to them how much money their corpus makes and what is available for them to request in terms of the earnings. I believe, personally believe, that maybe it's our government who should remind them of those kind of responsibilities, like maintaining the place better for our tourists.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to figure out what the relationship is there, so that some recommendations could be made, or knowing that they have access to additional funds that could be used to address some of these concerns that are being brought up. Yeah, that's really all I have for now. I understand that you've had this past couple of months to get your feet wet. Now that they're wet, thank you for coming back and not being intimidated, or even being and wanting to serve an additional 6 years. So thank you both for your service and your continued service, should you get confirmed. And so that's all I have for now, Chair.
Thank you. I just have a couple of follow-up questions for the nominees before I recognize the chair. How much is the AMP fund currently?
It is valued at 12 million.
From the initial 2 million, right? 2 million was
Yes.
the, okay. So 12
Yes,
million,
and the general fund is 93 million. 93 million.
93. Okay. And how much is available, let's say in the last fiscal year, how much was available for the American Memorial Park to, or the National Park Service to avail of to maintain the American Memorial?
The last time we notified them sometime last year was that 500,000 was available for them. But they came around and asked only for 133,000
$133,000.
for the salaries of I guess 2 people.
New employees?
We are not sure. They didn't. I believe that was not.
And where are
mentioned.
these 2 new employees? Are they here in Saipan or in Guam?
We don't really know, Chair.
Okay. 'Cause that's a lot of money for 2 people. Salaries for 2 people. But I thought you mentioned that the funds for the American Memorial Park are for infrastructure. That's what I caught from your testimony. So why is it being used for?
For the maintenance of the American Memorial Park.
Okay.
So who appoints the super at the head of the American Memorial Park?
I think it's the national park,
National park.
in the U.S. that
So they don't have like a contract term, like 5 years, or it's just whoever they send out here.
we're not sure. All we know is that the national park is the headquarters, the main office, where the Guam person reports to.
I think it's about time we have our own superintendent here in the CNMI. We've had the American Memorial Park for many, many years here in the CNMI, and I think that can be an undertaking, by virtue of a letter to National Park Service, perhaps. But that's all I had. I was just curious about
Madam
the
Chair.
values. Oh, okay. Senator Maglonia?
You mentioned there's $12 million under the AMP, but in one of these reports, I'm seeing only half of that. 6 million or something. What was the other 6 million? I guess this is from the transition report. In the transition report, they only identify 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 million. There's actually 12.
The value of their portfolio is 12 million.
Okay. Madam Chair, just a few small questions here, just
Sure.
so we can understand this. So in your centric report, altogether you received from MPLT $54 million. $54 million from day one in 1983 to today.
79 million.
The report says 54, so I guess I just want to clarify.
What?
Funds received by MPLT?
Oh, is that from DPL or?
I'm sorry, Senator Paul. That's from DPL.
Okay, 54 million.
The
Year to date.
overall amount of
Of
money
the
that
American Memorial?
DPL remitted to MPLT.
54. 54.
Yes, from DPL to MPLT.
So what is this 63? That's for the American Memorial. Okay, so I guess what I'm after is not so much the actual number, but then okay, so you got 54, and then you said your total I guess investment is around 100, little over $100 million, right? So the difference is you call it an increase for capital gains and security, right? Appreciation. So basically then the only reason why your total investment is growing is because of the capital gains. Basically, you give everything to DPL, which is less your expense and all that. So that I guess I'm trying to understand this. Since the beginning, it has only grown 2.4, 2.5 times approximately, right? So it's kind of like from day one, all the DPL, and then the capital gain, it only doubled a little, 2.5. Is my understanding correct? No?
I am not sure.
So that your total general fund and the park money is just 100 and almost 112 million, and that's about 2.5 times your total money you receive from day one from MPLT. I mean DPL.
Yes.
Would you recommend that maybe the interest income, maybe like take 30% of that and put it back in so that it can go up faster, right? I'm
From
just
the-
thinking that all the
from
interest
DPL?
income of MPLT, the interest income annually, I think that it would be wise to take 30% and put it back in so you can grow your investment faster, right? Rather than all the income, you just give it to the general fund. It seems very slow when you consider it, right? And this is public land. We're talking about public land lease since the almost the inception of the Commonwealth, and all we have to show for is from the lease is 100 million, right?
I know, but the other side of the coin, Senator, is that the remittance from DPL is very erratic, and of course they were
So
never.
the average is about a million a year when you consider it, 1.3 million maybe, or 1.4 a year from DPL. That's our average. But are we getting more? All the golf courses and public land?
We never get the true picture of how much really they receive from public land lease money.
Mm.
We don't even know.
That should be
What-
public record.
Yes, but they don't
And-
disclose to us, and after repeated requests for information, that is not one of their fortitude.
I think to answer Senator Paul's earlier question about the interest income being a portion of being 30% of it being set aside to reinvest, Senator Paul, pursuant to the Constitution, Article 5, Section 6D, the trustees shall transfer to the general revenues of the Commonwealth the remaining interest accrued.
Yeah,
On the
I was
trust
just kind of
proceeds,
like
so it's,
asking them, maybe that's something that we can amend, right? Because it seems like it's awfully slow to grow it. Over 40 years, just double it, right? When the value of, if this was private land, just selling it or one time, you can get a lot more than that, right? Or leasing it from the public perspective. Né? But anyway, that's something that maybe we can consider. una na question actually,
Just to mention, I think for to your point, Senator Paul, reinvesting the interest income. I mean, the report stated that 79 was given to the beneficiary, so this could have been reinvested as opposed to
oh,
where it's going now.
thank you. Finally, Ispitat, the hospital, you gave them a loan, right, a few years back?
Yes, we did.
CSCC? And they've been paying. They've been paying monthly or quarterly?
They well, initially it was supposed to be a line of credit. Then it was converted to a term loan, and they just retired it in September last year.
What was
They
the total?
paid
The
it
total,
off.
3 million or
They paid it. There
5
was
million or
three.
3? And so
Three.
so they have been paying, right?
Yes, they
So,
were.
so therefore, so if they want to borrow tomorrow money, another 3 million, it shouldn't be hard, right? They can just come and sign again.
Yes and no. They have a good record of making their payments,
Mm-hmm.
but review of their financial documents nowadays and their situation leaves us with some questions as to the persistence of their dire situation. The scenario 12 years ago, 11 years ago is still the same scenario. In other words, no improvement in the makeup of their finances.
Okay. So, and then with the U2 money, the $15 million, that was supposed to be also a monthly payment, right?
Yes.
From the government, and the government never made monthly payment.
No.
So they pretty much decided, hey, we'll just let them offset, right?
Yes.
So there was no protection from you guys to, or kind of like thief in your agreement to force them to pay?
You mean with CHCC?
No, with the U2.
No,
Because they
the
told you
U2
that they're going to
the
get
U- the U2
reimbursement, right?
is covered by the annual distributable income pledge.
So
That's
that was
security.
not, there was no assurance that reimbursement money will go to you?
Initially, that was the arrangement, but then that didn't go through. So the pledge, the security covered that. The annual distribution of income has been withheld.
So aside, let me understand this. So aside from the interest income that was supposed to be remitted to the general fund, which you are holding back to offset that loan, the administration was supposed to be making payments on top of that. Is that correct?
No.
Or reimbursements from?
Since they did not make the payment, the security the annual is covering for that.
I see.
But like
So
I
while the executive branch was boasting all this money and surplus, they were actually not paying
no,
their obligations
I
to
think
the Marianas Public Land Trust. The previous
original
administration.
the original understanding and negotiation was for the reimbursement method,
Mhm.
that the FEMA was going to reimburse, and then the government will get the money and transfer to MPLT.
But none of that ever happened to your
No,
knowledge.
it did not, and that's why it was converted into a loan, and the security kicked in
Mhm.
of not, since the government was not paying, the distribution, annual distribution is securing that the payment
That's
is paying for it.
Yeah. So the concern by some members of the legislature is, if it goes to the general fund, then the legislature have a say as to how the money is to be used. But when you have an agreement like that, and then there was never a genuine intent to offset with reimbursement, then pretty much you're taking the legislature out, especially if it's a multi-year commitment on the interest money. So I guess we just have to be careful when you go through those kind of credit agreement, and then there's really no intention to uh, to offset with reimbursement.
So the legislature loses out in appropriating that.
Yeah, so we don't have a say in appropriating because
Yes.
we assume that those monies, when they are reimbursed by the feds, would pay toward the line of credit. And so when that doesn't happen, then I just want to say, like, for example, I would like to have a say because there are some infrastructure projects also that we would like to see on RODA, for example, that we wish could be funded through this instrument, right? And so that's why we assume that when you have an agreement like that, I think it's your burden also to ensure that just because there's an easy way out, right, that you actually go and put the condition there that they pay as they promise, or that there's some kind of assurance that when they reimburse, you get paid, and not to depend on your guarantee. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Paul. I will allow the chairman, Mr. Long, to.
Madam Chair, I was just asked if I could be excused. That's all. I didn't want to be rude and step up without your approval.
My
So
apologies.
I was
yes.
just sitting here patiently.
We're getting ready to dismiss them anyway. So if you want to stay,
No,
we'll
thank you,
dismiss
ma'am.
all three
I
of you at the
appreciate
same
it.
time.
Thank you.
But before I dismiss the two nominees, thank you for your patience. Thank you for being with us this long. It helps us to understand and how to go about our jobs with your assistance and information. I find it extremely astonishing that, in the last 5 to 7 years, we have had millions of dollars, and we keep saying this, but then with this information, now again, we have had the CDL Community Development Loan Fund that was given to us by FEMA, 95 for 98 million. That was eventually converted into a grant. We have FEMA reimbursements, ARPA, COVID Cares Force, COVID Cares Acts 1 and 2. We received hundreds and approximately billions of dollars, and only to find out that MPLT was not paid the reimbursements from FEMA with respect to the U2 loan of $15 million, and that they're actually I would say delinquent because they never gave it, but you are withholding the interest as an assurance in your agreement, previous agreement. So I find all this information overwhelming and quite disturbing, really. And yet there are people who still push, even in here in the legislature, who still claim that no, there's still funds available. And we're coming across this information, as we speak to different agencies who were entitled to some of that by some agreement they had with the previous administration. But thank you for your time and your patience today. We appreciate your willing to serve another 6 years. And I feel that, this committee certainly will recommend advancement of your nomination for confirmation. Recognize Senator Karina Magofnia.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Sorry, just some follow-up questions real quick. So the 12 million for AMP and the 93 million for the general fund are the principal funds? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. As of when?
Those are the principal.
Okay,
the
as of when?
corpus. Yes.
To date.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, because I'm looking at the citizen-centric report, and according to this report, it's $117 million. So there's a difference of about what, like 12 billion?
Mhm.
Is that the eccentric report?
Yes, this is the citizen-centric report that's posted on OPA's website for fiscal year 2023.
Oops.
Because that only comes out to $105 million if we're going with the number to date.
Here, this is the explanation right here. They said that we have
Oh, boy.
is currently include the net increase in fair value for investment. I don't know. We never had that amount. When we came in, it was never 117 million.
117 million, yeah. Maybe,
We need to look at that.
Okay.
yes, perhaps maybe that's quite a significant difference from what you are sharing with us today versus what's printed
In
on the,
eccentric.
What is the market value
My
of each
my opinion on this, Senator, is that this is the fair value of the investments. The fair value.
are you
But
referring to the citizen-centric report? Because it
Yeah.
says the MPLT's
Yes,
principal fund.
of 117,
Yes,
745, that is the fair value of the investments, whereas the corpus itself is 93, but
93.
the fair value of the investment, it is valued as 17.
Well, but
both,
that's
for both.
that's quite of a big
Oh, yes.
difference in, and so if we were to cash in all the investments right now, what would be that market value? Would it be the $117 million or
106, 105.
We will have to consult that with our financial
please
consultant.
do? Yes,
Raymond
because
James,
we're not talking hundreds of
Yes.
thousands of dollars, we're talking millions of dollars. So we do need to know what makes up the difference and where do we really stand,
right.
financially, in liquidity. Also, just quick questions. So these money managers, are they paid based on commission or are they salaried?
This they are paid on
It's the route.
basis points.
Basis points. And so what are the expectations of
Flat rate.
each manager, money manager? Are they expected to find investments that yield a certain percentage? Or are they just kind of do their own thing? And if one finds an investment for 3%, while someone else is investing that yields, 7-8%, like what is the expectations for these money managers?
I would say that whatever they make, that whatever they make with the investment that they manage, the basis point applies. So the more they make the investment work, the more they get paid. Because
So-
it's based on the
So it's kind of like commission based. So
yes,
got it.
yes,
And are they
on the basis points.
are they capped at a certain amount as to how much to invest, or do each money manager get $1 million to invest in, or are they? It just depends on what the investment is.
It all depends on the asset allocation. How much we give each money manager an amount to invest.
So it's
The
the
way-
trustee
the
that
way we
determines how
allocate-
much money
Ye-
is given
yes.
to each money
Yes.
manager
Because
based
they have
on.
different. They also have different investment styles, and of course it involves risk profiles. So all those factors determines when we do the asset allocation how much this kind of money manager, how much we will give them based on our overall asset allocation. fixed income, equities. So the different investment styles also is a factor
Sure.
in how much we give them to manage. And of course, the more they work to get returns, the greater is their compensation
Mhm.
based on basis points.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand
Yes.
the decision process of how, each money manager is provided with a certain amount of money to invest in. And so, for example, if someone came to you and is proposing to make an investment of, let's say, $2 million, what would be the deciding factors when this person comes to you and makes the presentation and proposal to invest in an investment worth $2 million? What is the process of the trustees to say yes or no?
So we have to go back to our investment policies statement, because that would tell us what we're looking for. Are we looking for growth, large growth, or fixed income strategies?
Sure.
We need to understand what kind of investment style we need to decide on.
Right,
That
but-
$2 million is going to go into large growth or large value or
So is
fixed
this where the
income. We
financial
have to
consultant
decide.
comes in and help guide you guys through the
Yes.
financial
Yeah.
analysis to determine whether or not this investment is sound or probably too risky, or like
Yes.
as trustees to make those decisions, like who provides you the guidance and the knowledge to
Yes.
know what what you're
It is
looking
the
at?
investment consultant also that provides us guidance,
Okay.
because they participate actively in the review of and the selection of money managers.
Okay, and all these investments that are being made are being vetted through their financial statements. So everything is being vetted through.
Everything.
Okay.
Everything.
Okay. Thank
And-
you.
And every year we evaluate their performances,
Okay.
whether to continue or not to continue. And there are also like notifications if there are red flags, like they are not performing. Pure performance, we use that as a standard of measurement to how well they're doing. Pure performance or against the benchmarks and indexes. Those are standards of measurement
So
of how well they are doing their job. And if there's a continuing failure, so to speak, red flags, we give them warning and that we will terminate their services if it has a pattern of failing to meet benchmarks.
okay. So there's an annual evaluation of each money manager, and based on their evaluation, the trustees will determine whether or not to keep them on board. Or are there any sanctions for the money managers? Should, like, for instance, that one incident where they invested overseas and now that money is frozen. As a matter of fact, it lost its value 50% of what was invested in that investment. What are some of the repercussions for a bad investment like that? And was this money manager really tracking and keeping track of everything that was going on, between the U.S. and Russia? Like, I mean, I just feel like that was kind of negligent
Right. Yeah.
and incompetent to put some money in there. And I don't know how far back this investment was made, but throughout the years they should have been monitoring and being informed as to the geopolitical issues that are taking place in the world. So and I asked whether this person is still on board, and I guess he is or she is, and I just think that that's something that the trustees should really look into and reconsider whether this person needs to, I don't know what the evaluation result came out of, but I just really think that that was a really bad investment on his or her part, and there has to be repercussions because this is our money.
Yeah. So what happened after the fact. I mean, we were not there,
Right.
but we have taken some steps on how we're going to be monitoring and how we're going to be looking at their performance against themselves, against their peers and whatnot. But you're absolutely right. You know, we need to fire them if they're not performing, or they put us in a situation where we're going to lose money, right?
Absolutely.
So I just would like to say that because I think WCM is not in the general fund. They're not a money manager in our general fund. So that's where it happened. So they're no longer our money manager under the general fund.
So it's under the American Memorial Park Fund?
Yeah, they're still there because of their investment style, right? But they have been informed, no, Exalt China.
Right.
Exalt
But
all
these are
these
things that they
others,
should be
right.
aware of as money
Yes.
managers. These kinds of practices is known well across the board by professionals like them, right? And we are entrusting them with our money to invest in safe places. And I think almost everybody, I mean, you don't have to be a money manager fund to know that Russia or China is not one of the regions that you should, invest in. So I just trying to make a point that, we need to hold our money managers accountable. We have to know what the expectations are, and we need to seriously assess and evaluate them each and every year to ensure that they are worth keeping. Because I can tell you, there's a line of professionals in their field that would be more than happy to take on that position. So let's not limit ourselves to someone just because they've been in there for however many years and we were comfortable. No, we need to do better. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield.
Thank you, Senator Magofnia, and the committee has no further questions for you. You are hereby dismissed. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is miscellaneous. Do we have anything? Any announcements? I just wanted to make an announcement that the EAGI committee will conduct another confirmation hearing for a couple of nominees. One is for Dr. Glenda George, and who's the other one on Friday? Sorry, we're getting our days mixed up. No, the other doctor for the health professional licensing board is will not be able to make it, but he will not be there. Who is it? Mr. Frank Rabaldiman? This Friday? Yes, that's correct. So this Friday at 10 o'clock, we will hear from Dr. Glenda S. George, nominated to the Healthcare Professions Licensing Board. And at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, we will hear from Mr. Frank Rabaldiman, who has been nominated to serve as the Secretary of the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs. I have no further announcement. Recognize Senator Donald.
Just
Munro.
one more announcement. The Fiscal Affairs public hearing on the 5 tax bills will be on Thursday at 4 p.m. here in the Senate chamber. This will be the last opportunity for anyone in the public to comment before our committee meeting, possibly next week, to address these 5 bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Manglonia. Anybody else? Recognize Senator Magofnia.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Also, we just an announcement that we have a joint committee meeting with Fiscal Affairs and RDP this coming Thursday at 10:30 to meet with CIP and Secretary of Finance to get some status updates on ongoing CIPs on the first and second senatorial districts. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Magofnia. Nothing further. Can I get a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
So move.
Second.
Motion has been made and has been seconded. Are there any objections to the motion? There being no objections raised, the motion is hereby duly adopted. The time is now 4:48 p.m. and this meeting is hereby adjourned.